Hey everyone, this is Shelly Dressel, and today I'm going to channel about the bridge collapse in Baltimore Harbor. I know that I just did the Universal Beings a couple of days ago. However, this question never came up, and there's so much that people are talking about, and so I'm curious. I'm curious about what is going on. I mean, I have my own thoughts that primarily that I don't think there's enough negative people or that they have enough power to do something like this. But I don't know what's going on here. It's pretty destructive, just like Maui was pretty destructive, and I felt like that ended up being something that was by the nefarious ones. So I'm curious. We'll see. All right, I'm going to call in Albayon. He tends to know more of this type of stuff, but it may be that he, pulls energy from other people. I don't know. So here we go. Let's see what Albayon has to say. Greetings. Welcome and thank you for inviting me to come and speak about this matter. The collapse of the bridge, well, it wasn't just a collapse of the bridge. The freighter that hit the support of the bridge is something that was, what do we want to call it? Was going to happen, either that or something else. There were many different potentials. And the sense, like one of the things that Shelly wrote when she wrote down some questions was, is this a black swan event? Is there a deeper meaning to it? And I've had, when I pick up on this, I have several different perceptions that come to me. Number one is, I agree with what Shelly was just saying. I don't believe that this is fully funded by the nefarious ones, because I don't feel the energies of the nefarious ones around it. I do feel their energy and I do feel it connected, but it's not all encompassing that it was done by the nefarious ones. I do believe that it was something that was done through the, what do you call that, satellite. I do believe that someone through that remote control of the satellite took over the control of the ship. I do believe that it was planned for quite some time in advance. And I do believe that the people that were on the ship did not know that this was coming. There may have been some minor people that knew, but when you look at the pilot, when you look at the captain, when you look at those that are at the forefront of being in charge of this, my perception is they did not know anything about this. So what they were doing is, this was, as I'm looking at it, this was a ship that was leaving the port and then having to go under this very long bridge. And what I see was going on is that things started out normal as they left the dock, but pretty quickly after that, they started having trouble with their controls. They also started having things flashing off and on. I know that everyone has seen those videos where the lights went out, the lights came back on, the lights went out, and then it changed. They lost control of the ship. That was already down the road. They were already having trouble with things even before that happened. That was just the final piece of what was going on. And when I say that it was taken over by a satellite, that's the part where I feel like the satellite kicked in. I feel like it was trying to get a bead on them. And I do feel like the one that was behind it was someone that was not, someone that was part of the nefarious ones, that their intention was to make it as, what's the word we want to say? To make it as hurtful as possible. However, it could have been more hurtful than what it was. It was, to a degree, because of the time of day that it took place, because there was a lack of traffic on the bridge, and the way that it all happened, there was damage to the front of the freighter, but there were a lot that was in the back that meaning less, that the freighter itself did not sink, so there was less lives lost. There were absolutely lives that were lost about this. But one of the questions that was coming through my mind as I was tapping into it, or that I was reading from your mind, was, well, was it as it is shown in the videos? And how did they just happen to have that video? So one of the there were several different views of the videos of this. And one of them was just what they have looking at the bridge and looking at the harbor all the time. And so that was something that's just there. As you know, around all of your cities and all of your waterways and everything, there are those cameras that just monitor what's happening, who's going in, who's going out, etc. So when I'm looking at this and I see what happened, another question that I know I've gotten from people is, when it hit that main piling, did it have an explosion that brought down the second one? Because I know many people said the bridges should be made that a section can go down without it collapsing the whole entire bridge. And my sense of it was that yes, there was what's the word? There was a device that blew up in the second one, and it did look like the whole thing came down. It did look like it was all as I say that, I get, no, I'm not 100% sure that's how it happened. Anyway, this is very hard to read because there's already so much emotion around it. So let us just talk by pros and cons. If this was indeed done 100% by the nefarious ones, and it was done with the intention of crippling the United States, then they would already have people saying, go to war. Who did this? Oh, it must have been the Ukrainians because there was a Ukrainian pilot. Not pilot, captain. All of these different things that would try to be pushing people to say, go to war. And there would be that feeling inside of people of, I need vengeance and I need to go to war. And there is not any of that. There's that in maybe a very small portion of it, but not very many. On the flip side of that, they're already looking towards, okay, what's going to happen? If this port is shut down, how long is it going to be shut down? That's right smack in the middle of going up and down the eastern coast of the United States. So is it going to completely cripple that part of the country for bringing products into the area? And so my sense of that is that it is not the only port. There are other ports that are going to be utilized and that have not been damaged, and that this happening in the way that it did has caused them to already reevaluate all of the ports coming into the United States so as to make sure that there's not something even bigger that happens in one of the other ports. Are there things that are going to be hard to get a hold of? Yes, there are. Are there things that will be delayed, either leaving or coming in? Yes, there will. How long is it going to take to clean up this? Because there have been some people saying 5 years, 10 years, even longer. The waterways will be open within probably a few months, very short period of time. They will have a corridor that just lets out, one at a time so that they can get people out and get people in. As for, there are ferries that are going to be set up to take cars across the bay, but it's not going to be right there where the bridge was. It's going to be down a ways on one side and or the other. But that area itself is going to be left alone, and they will build another bridge. But at this point, I don't know. I don't get any sense of a bridge. It's almost like maybe they're going to wait long enough and something completely new and different is going to come in. The sense that I also get is that there were other things that are being discovered, or other things that are going to come out as a result of this crash. It feels like in part it has to do with human trafficking. It feels like in part it has to do with the tunnels that go underneath everything. There are tunnels that already go under this bay, just in terms of facilitating people, that they drive in cars. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the DUMBs, or ways in which people would utilize things for human trafficking. So part of this is that it's going to come out that that there was way more going on than what was indicated here. You will recall back several years ago when that Greenpeace or Green something had blocked the Suez Canal, and how and that whole intention of that was to let people know about human trafficking. So that is another piece of the puzzle for what is coming in here. What else do I want to say? I feel as if I'm not giving you real clear answers, other than it wasn't just 100% an accident, that there was more behind it than was an accident. And when I say, like, I had that sense, were the white hats involved in it? They were involved in it in that they knew something was coming up. The more that I'm tapping into this, the more I sense that somehow, some way, someone was notified as to the time of when this was. Originally, they wanted this to happen like at peak rush hour or something like that. And so somehow, some way, someone anticipated that this was coming up, and it was able to, maybe this ship has to leave at this time because of the other ships in the yard. Or somehow it was done in support of trying to make it as least hurtful to the vast majority of people as was possible. So I'm picking up on that. The other long-term effect that I feel is going to come out of this is that it's really, really, really shifting the impact, or shifting the awareness for all of the Americans. The vast majority of people believe it was just a terrible accident. They had the electricity go out, and the boat went out of control. And they believe that the whole entire bridge just collapsed, because that's what bridges do. So it may be a bit of an awakening, even with when I look back at Maui and what had happened there with all of the DEW weapons and everything else that was happening. It was very well planned. It was a lot of negative energy around it. And I'm just not seeing that around this. I feel as if that was the foundation, but as to, I'm sorry, I feel as if I'm not giving you really good information. Not good or bad, not judging it that way. I mean, I feel as if what I'm trying to pick up on and what I am interpreting is not coming through as clearly as I would like it to be. But this is the information that I have, and please just take it in and process it, and do your own due diligence. Throw me out the window, whatever you would like to do. But on the whole, I remind you that we are in the higher frequency. And on the whole, there is less and less and less of that low vibrational energy that's caused all these problems for so long. And this almost like it sucked out a pretty fair chunk of what was going on. So just to do that, black and white, was this an accident? Was it intentional? It was intentional, but not as bad as it could have been. There you go. Thank you, everyone. I hope that's helpful. Share your response in the bottom, because I'm curious to see what humanity is. We can look at the energy, we can look at the big scheme of things, and we can cone right down into something very finite. But when we see people's verbal responses or their processing of certain things, it just gives different depth and different information to the whole thing. So thank you, my beloved family. Stay in the faith, stay in the love, and stay in the presence of who you are. Ansaluia.